Welcome back to season 3 of Multifamily Unpacked. Today, I have the privilege of talking with Jennifer Staciokas, the president of Western Wealth Communities and the vice president of People and Technology with Western Wealth Capital. And if that title alone doesn't give it away, Jennifer is a wealth of knowledge. She's kind, she's grounded, and she's a ton of fun. In this episode, we talk about everything from what's happening in the Sun Belt, Western Wealth's unique approach to what they call enhanced services, and how to stay healthy with meditation. Thanks for joining us on Multifamily Unpacked. To begin, I think it's always fun to know how you made it into the world of multifamily, but I think more importantly, I want to know why you were awesome. Why people should listen to you.
Wasn't that a good question? So, first, we'll start off how I got into the industry. And, I always thought at the beginning I had a pretty unique story, but it doesn't seem to be very unique the more people that I meet. So, I was living in an apartment community. I was working a job in pharmaceutical research, just buying my time so I could go back to graduate school. And when I knew that was actually happening, I had quit my job and went into the leasing office, or actually got in the elevator and saw that there was a flyer that said looking for fun, enthusiastic people that want to save money on their rent. And that spoke to me. So I went into the leasing office and was hired on the spot. And
They,
20,
they,
almost
they
25
could
years
see that
later,
you're fun and enthusiastic. They saw that on the
it,
spot.
that was all that you had to be to get the job, apparently. So I fit the bill, got the job. And almost 25 years later, here I am when I did complete my graduate degree and thought that I was going to go in a different direction with my life. But this industry has certainly changed my life, definitely for the better, and given me so many great opportunities where I started on site in leasing and now I'm running a management company and have done many jobs in between. So this industry certainly provides a great opportunity for people. So why I think I'm awesome and people should listen is
Yeah,
that
I
I think
want you
I
to
have
brag
yeah,
about yourself. That's what this is right here.
I'm not really good at that, but what I can say is I hope that my story will encourage some people that are listening that are maybe sitting in a role that they don't want to be in for the rest of their life to know that that is possible as long as you work hard, you build relationships, you communicate, you organize yourself and your life and become an expert in something or some things that people will look up to you and then provide you opportunities to do. And that was something that Johnny, when you were at a former company, you guys really pushed me to get out in front of things and speak on panels. And oftentimes I was talking about the experience that I had had with your product and service. And you make a name for yourself because you become that expert. And I think it's really important for people to sometimes put themselves in uncomfortable situations to actually be more comfortable moving forward.
Yeah, we also put you in a dance video too. I don't know if you've done a lot of those in your life.
Not since then. No, I do
Okay.
remember that.
So good. So good. I think that's
So
deleted
good.
now somewhere.
Yeah, I haven't made it big on Dancing with the Stars or
You
something
know.
like that after that video.
Well, your path so far, it sounds like it's going that direction. You've continued to climb and, take on new roles, but honestly, I do think your journey is inspirational and just who you are too. I think you're incredibly classy, you're intelligent. I think you've led your organizations, with integrity. You have such a great reputation. And you mentioned, to anybody listening to know that they could grow, that they could continue to move forward. I know you were the head of marketing of, I think, the second largest company in the nation when I knew you, which was huge. And now you're the president of Western Wealth, is my understanding.
Yeah, that's correct. So, I've had a different path than maybe some people had where I worked on site. I got into training. I took on more responsibility in marketing, and I really made my name in the industry on the marketing side of things. And I think something else that's really important too for people to understand is raise your hand when there's an opportunity. Even though you think somebody may not be thinking of you, raise your hand and put yourself out there. It's exactly what happened when I was with Lincoln, that I volunteered to take over revenue management. I really thought that there was a great marriage between marketing, training, and pricing. And I was fortunate to work for an organization that was very open to people wanting to expand their roles and do new things. And that really paved the way for me to have more exposure in the business and be put into a position where I am today, where I went and worked at Pinnacle and then came and had the opportunity to start my own management company for an owner out of British Columbia.
Amazing. I love that advice of just raising your hand and volunteering. My
Mhm.
last company, I was a CEO, and when anybody would come to me and say, "Hey, I want to do this," it showed initiative. And
Mhm.
a lot of times that work needed to be done. And I'm like, "Great, you're doing a great job in the role you're in. I'm happy to, move forward there." So I think that is really smart advice. And other advice that you just gave too is, become an expert in an area or two. And what would you consider your expertise to be that has gotten you where you are?
Yeah, I would say it's different from what got me to where I am to what I'm now focusing on today. But I think what I really became an expert on is anything digital marketing to really pave the way. And I think the other thing that I can't say I'm an expert on, but something that I really think I help to encourage is to get as a fee manager. I'm not currently a fee manager, but when I was in my former life, giving marketing visibility to institutional partners and having them be educated and understand how marketing truly moves the needle and does drive revenue in an organization at a property level, at a portfolio level, and at a company level. And that's something I am really proud of that, making marketing something that maybe had seen as something that would be the first thing to go, that in the organizations I worked in, it was the most important thing that the operations team saw for property performance and success.
That seems to tie to the raising your hand concept as well. Like, hey, this is what marketing's doing. This is the value that it's driving for your organization. So yeah, it sounds like you educated those people on what it is and the value that it's driving.
That's right. And I think it's so important too. Like when you're thinking about as a fee manager, you think about the sales process and being a salesperson. I always took a very different approach, and it was to educate first. That I felt like the business would come and the sales would come if you built a relationship and you educated first.
Okay, I'm taking notes from you, and any salespeople that are listening out there, educate, educate if you want to be a good salesperson. I think that's tremendous advice too. So your title, at least I read online that you're the president of people and technology. And again, that's not, I mean, you already mentioned how it wasn't very common to go, to include revenue management with being over marketing, but people in tech, that's not a common title to have where those two things are together. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to learn more about that. And then also how you even think about bringing those two worlds together.
Absolutely. So we have two different companies. The parent company is Western Wealth Capital, and it's the investment arm of the business. And that's where I oversee people and technology for the entire company. And then I serve as the president of Western Wealth Communities, which is the management company for the investment company. And really, this came about, and I think it goes back to the comments that we had earlier on raising your hand. And I'm very fortunate that my CEO, Janet, she saw that my passion. So, when you're thinking about what are people good at that work for you and what are they passionate about, she knew that technology and the people side of the business are the two things where my face lights up when I get to come to work and I get to deal with those things. And so, as we were looking at kind of reorganizing our business, it made sense. I was already overseeing the disciplines of people and technology within the management company, but then we could also have some larger oversight from the investment company in that regard as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, it as you explain it, doesn't seem like a stretch at all, but it just
Yeah.
when I read it, it didn't seem as common of a title. Why do you think that is?
I think, and I think it makes a lot of sense in the sense of if you don't get the people part of your business right, you're never going to get the technology right. So if you're not spending and focusing the right amount of time on the people, any technology that you roll out will fall flat. And so it's very important to marry those two and understand how they play together because I'm still a firm believer, even though I'm very tech forward, I'm still a firm believer in the human touch and that there is a really nice balance between the two. You just have to find that line and find the balance within your own organization. And it's going to be different for everybody that's listening. because in some organizations, they may completely shut down their leasing offices and they're doing and performing maybe better than they ever had. And then in other cases, we're doing a hybrid approach where we still have that human touch, but we're also automating and leveraging AI and centralizing functions and tasks to be more effective.
The way you describe that again, I think anybody listening, we might have a few more roles pop up for hire of people, a technology and people leader. You're describing it so well there. But yeah, in touching on that, there are people that do have a great human touch, even though they're centralizing. There's a lot of different ways to go about this, but I know that's a hot topic in this space. Help unpack that a little bit. What does centralization and role specialization mean to you?
Absolutely. So, centralization is definitely the buzz in the industry. We decided as an organization to not call it centralization, but call it enhanced services. So, having a little bit gentler approach to it, because it is big change management when you try and take on an initiative like this within your organization. And so, enhanced services definitely is just showing that when we're moving these functions and tasks into a corporate environment, we're not taking everything away from the on-site teams, so there's not a need for them. We're providing additional support. We're providing them another set of eyes and more consistency. One of our big focuses was to reduce leakage at the on-site level, where sometimes charges get missed, charges get reversed, things just fall through the cracks. And when we have more sets of eyes looking at those things, it allows us to ensure that we will have more standard process and more consistency. So, the approach that we took is that we have it bucketed into three areas: leasing, admin, and maintenance. And admin was the first bucket that we decided to dig into. And admin is really a lot of those tasks that the assistant manager is responsible for. So, generating renewals, working on new leases and the renewal leases, auditing various tasks and things that are getting taken care of, and making sure that all of those things are taking place the way that they should. But it has to be in tandem with the on-site team. So if enhanced services is doing the move-ins and the move-outs, they still need to interface with the on-site team to make sure that the keys were picked up, that we got a move-in condition form back, all of those items. Upon move-out, we still need on-site team members to walk the apartments, take
Right.
photographs, so then we're able to file a claim on our lease insurance.
You've broken that into three areas, and I love the name enhanced services too. I think that's really representative of what you just explained. But what
Yeah.
did you learn and are there still areas that you're looking to make improvements in?
So we've rolled out admin across the portfolio. Our next function will be maintenance. And I think really our final task will be on the leasing side of things. Our business plan is 100% value add. And so I'm a firm believer that you still need somebody to sell the vision of what it is that you're doing when you're renovating an apartment as well as the entire community. So we've still focused on having on site sales through that process. That will change as time goes on, but things that we've really learned have been that two sets of eyes are always better than one. And there is some accountability when you have somebody else looking at information in a different way. We've also been able to figure out which managers are strong at which things and which managers need additional training on things. And the other thing has been great about it is we can provide on the spot training. So we were sitting in a meeting in here earlier and an email came through about something that had gone wrong. And the my training manager was immediately able to go back to her computer, call the other manager on Teams, share the screen, walk them through and provide on the spot training. Where something like that, if we weren't doing enhanced services, may not have been found until a monthly audit was taking place by a regional manager, if it had even been caught at all. The whole purpose of it is to also free our on-site teams up to spend more time with the customer, for the manager to be able to spend more time with their team coaching and mentoring, and also spending more time on maintenance, because we don't see maintenance ever being fully automated or being able to utilize AI to
Right.
100% where we could have fewer team members. So if we can allow our managers more time to actually walk the property, walk the vacants, and spend more time with maintenance, we find that that's going to pay dividends.
I know the traditional model people have been kind of a jack of all trades at the office. So I'm assuming with your enhanced services, you did mention there's certain people where they aren't doing as well. You have training, but are you finding roles that fit their strengths and able to, move people into those areas? Is that something that you're doing?
That is a great question. So we haven't gotten to that point other than, providing new opportunities for people to join our enhanced services team. But as it comes to role specialization, we've actually kind of taken an opposite approach to it, especially from our corporate team, where we're going through and doing full cross training of our corporate staff. And the term I've been using with my team is that we want utility players on the team. So instead of being focused on somebody just doing training or just doing marketing or just doing operations, we want utility players to be able to plug in and help at any given point in time. So if we've got a real need to generate all renewals within 2 days, I've got 6 people in the bench that can help us accomplish that role. So people truly can also take time off because they know there's somebody else that has their back and can do the job if they need to step in.
Thanks for sharing that. I had a question for you just on rising costs with properties too. I don't know if they're out of control costs or just rising costs that are hitting you as an operator.
So there's certainly rising costs. The things that my team and I really focus on are what can we control, right? Let's not focus on taxes and
Mhm.
insurance and things that are completely out of our control. We did talk a bit about enhanced services. We are trying to figure out a way because labor costs since COVID have skyrocketed. So what are the ways that we can bring down labor cost, share resources between a pool of properties and still have that same level of service. So that's a lot of the brainstorming we've been doing around labor. And I would say another thing is really trying to leverage fintech where we can to minimize bad debt, find ways to generate additional ancillary income to increase the bottom line.
Yeah. Of course, the things that you can control. I think that was such a good point. I think typically where I struggle from a mental health standpoint is focusing on things that I can't control. And I think that that's the same case in the work environment.
100%. Yeah, it's the whole stoic philosophy of, really only expend your energy on the things you can control because if you expend too much energy on the things that you can't, you'll end up driving yourself a little bit mad for sure.
Yeah, and I think I need to read that quote on a daily basis, maybe hourly.
Don't we all? Yeah.
Oh man. Well, you're in Phoenix, and your company is it primarily, or are your assets primarily down there in the Sun Belt?
Yeah, they are. So we are in Arizona in both Tucson and Phoenix. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada, and then we're in Houston and Dallas, Texas,
And
solely in the Sun Belt.
and do you see anything unique about being in the Sun Belt for multifamily comparatively to others?
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. So I've lived in Phoenix off and on since 2004. And for many, many years, Phoenix was the market that a lot of people wanted to stay away from, both Vegas and Phoenix. And that changed during COVID, where it really became, I would say, Phoenix and Vegas became the darlings of multifamily. And we had a ton of Californians, a ton of people from all over the US moving into our state. And we've also seen it in Texas as well, a lot of in migration, a lot of job creation. The biggest thing I've seen in Phoenix is that when I first moved here, it was known more for snowbirds and it was associated with older people that lived in Arizona, and that has completely changed. A lot of Silicon Valley companies put more of their entry level jobs in Scottsdale, places in Arizona, and really provided opportunities for young people to come in at a much cheaper cost of living but still have that innovation and have a great place to work. During COVID, we saw some of the most drastic rent increases I will probably ever see in my lifetime, where we were achieving sometimes 30 to 35% lease over lease. And it really was monumental. And I hope I mean, I would love to see those types of increases again in my
Right. Yeah.
lifetime, but it's highly unlikely. And, with the highs come the lows. And I think now, as the markets have stabilized a bit with everything going on in the financial market, we're at stabilization in Phoenix. And, some of those rents have certainly plateaued. But it's been a wild ride to see, new leases and renewals skyrocket the way they did. And honestly, even where rents are today, is so well above where it had been pre-COVID that even though we are a little more stable in those markets, we are so far above where we had been for such a long time.
That's really interesting to hear. And Jennifer, tell me, what are your biggest initiatives today? I know you shared a little bit about, moving your enhanced services from admin to leasing to maintenance. What else are you focused on? Or do you have something that has even higher priority than that?
Yeah, I would say that's equally as important as what we built now. We've created what we call our property performance group, where what rolls up into that group is marketing, training, revenue management, and corporate operations. So, not the day to day ops. My day to day ops still sits with regional vice presidents that oversee the RPMs, but that property performance team is really working hand in hand with the property operations to ensure that there is maximized property performance. And instead of really looking in the silos of trying to fix price or trying to fix promotion or trying to fix product, we are able to bring a collective group of people together to brainstorm any of the challenges that we're seeing, have quick meetings that are actionable, and we can make decisions and then move forward with the plan instead of having 3 or 4 separate meetings with different subject matter experts, getting that whole team together and understanding the goal and the mission to really make the property perform even better than it already is.
And how do you, as the leader, determine that these are the biggest problems that you need to solve?
So, when it comes to property operations, we utilize, and I think the last initiative we can also talk about, and it ties in nicely with this, is business intelligence. So, from my perspective, I'm starting my day in the BI platform, and I normally start in the operations dashboard. And certainly on a Monday morning, where we are looking at anything that we know we need to focus on, we've got our green, yellow, and red.
Yep.
And then we require a report that's filled out if somebody sits occupied or with an ATR below a certain threshold or above a certain threshold. They have a report that they need to complete and turn in to myself, the property operations team, and the property performance team. And what they're doing then is holding collective calls to go through the process, go through the report, and come up with action items and hold the teams accountable to drive results. So BI definitely plays a role in that because we don't have to work in the data. We can work on the data and just basically look at what's happening and then take action based on those results.
Well, yeah, starting your week with BI, I think explains why you're the president of people and technology. So I think that's
Mhm.
yeah, it's a great way to determine what's next. I also saw that you've been involved with Entryway, formerly
Yes.
Shelters to Shutters, and I love that organization. And but tell me, how do you think about housing access and affordability as an operator? And yeah, what can be done?
Yeah, so it's definitely a great organization. I got involved last fall, and it's something that I sit on quite a few advisory boards, but it's normally for technology companies. And when I was given the opportunity to sit on the entryway board, it was something that was completely different and something that is even way more fulfilling because we are tying two really important things. So, solving for situational homelessness by providing people the opportunity to work and to put a roof over their head. And to me, that's the most rewarding thing you can do for somebody to give them a leg up and give them an opportunity to change their life in the best way possible and be part of mentoring and educating them on how to get back on track and reinsert themselves into society.
This sounds like a raise your hand moment. Thanks for that background on Shelters to
Yeah.
Shutters. Yeah, really interesting, and thanks for serving in that capacity. I do think it's a
Mhm.
admirable thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a better organization you could be part of. Thinking about the future of multifamily,
Mhm.
what's a practice, trend, or idea that you see growing in importance?
Trend growing in importance. I think the big thing to solve for is labor. And I think, the big challenge that I have and many different people have is how are we going to continue with maintenance labor moving forward? There's a lot of people doing specialization as it relates to what we think of as our maintenance functions. So
Yeah.
people might be wanting to be an electrician or be a plumber or do those specializations. And we're not finding as many young people coming into the business on the maintenance side of the shop. And so I think it's imperative in the industry locally nationally, that we focus on that pipeline of talent that can come in because I think we mentioned earlier, maintenance isn't going away. Maintenance isn't something that can be fully automated. It still is going to require people. And we need to make sure that we get the right people in place in order to make that happen.
I've heard that as a common challenge. I don't think that's just a struggle in the Sun Belt area, but nationwide.
No.
Thinking further out, what do you think is going to be different in the industry? I was gone for 8 years, and there's some things that have improved, some things that haven't at all. Like I'm impressed with all the AI that's here. I'm not so impressed with the integration place that we're at with all the
Mm.
different vendors. But there's so many more of us, so I understand some of the challenges. But 5 years from now, what do you see those challenges being?
My hope is that the look of the PMS is going to change significantly, where there's still some legacy systems in play that I think could be revolutionized. And so I think that side of the business is going to look very different. We certainly are going to see innovation in automation and AI. I do think, there's been so much chatter around pricing software that there will be some shakeup and innovation in that space as well moving forward. And I think another thing on the soft side of things is the role. I think the roles in our companies are going to look very different. And something that's really been a central focus at most management companies, that role of the regional property manager, I see that changing. And I've really been pushing my team to think through, what does the RPM of the future look like? Because even 8 years ago, Johnny, like, the RPMs have always been busy. I personally say being an RPM is the hardest job at a property management company. It's really the most thankless job you can have because you're getting yelled at from residents, you're dealing with employee concerns, you're just dealing with a lot of different things that can be very thankless. But I think as we've added more and more technology, and you've seen in the 8 years you had been gone, how much technology has come into the fold. And we're asking RPMs to not only do all of the basics that they had to do from years ago, but we're also asking them to be experts in all these systems and technology. And it's nearly impossible. So, our task really as a group is to solve for that. So, what are the things that are just noise that create obstacles for the regional manager? What are things that we can centralize to take that burden off of them? And what are the things that the regional manager still needs to touch and make sure that they are actively involved in? And how can we re envision that role within the industry? Because I haven't seen a whole lot of that. And I think that that's going to be necessary to move forward.
Yeah, I think just from what you said, I think I'm going to send out a few texts or messages of thanks to more regional property managers. Like
Y-
it really does
yes,
sound like a tough role that needs to be disrupted in a way that's more beneficial for them.
that's right. Absolutely.
Jennifer, I got a few speed round questions here for you.
Okay.
If you could retire, I'm assuming this might tie to, the philanthropic cause that you're already doing, but if you could retire and work on a philanthropic cause, what would that be? Or would it be in addition to what you're already doing with Shelters to Shutters? Entryway. I
Yes.
should have said entryway instead. I know that they used to be Shelters to Shutters.
Yes, I think to me it would be a very personal cause. It would be centered around Parkinson's. So my dad has been living with Parkinson's for quite some time. And so to me, if I had more time to be able to dedicate to that, to put more resources to finding a cure and giving more people the opportunity to have a life that they can live that hasn't completely changed, that would be something that would mean a whole lot to me.
And what's an opinion you feel so strongly about that you would put on a billboard?
It's funny because we talked about this earlier, but it is definitely the truth that you can only focus your time and energy on those things that you can control and not on those things that you cannot.
I need that. I need that on that billboard, right? I already mentioned that.
Yes.
No, that's so true. Okay, finish this sentence. Renter centric means.
Personalizing the journey in whatever way suits the resident or the renter in any way possible. I think it all comes down to personalization.
What is one thing you do to take care of your mental health?
Oh, great one. So It's something I've been doing for years now, probably close to 10 years, where I meditate twice a day when I wake up and before I go to bed. And yoga is it's a critical part of my daily life. I attempt to do yoga every day. Sometimes the day gets in the way, but as much yoga as I can possibly do and keep steady with meditation twice a day, I think that certainly keeps me in check.
How long do you meditate in those two intervals?
Yeah, so in the morning, it's anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, and before I go to bed, it's 20 to 30.
That's amazing. You're my hero in there, in that area. I love like meditation, something I've done over the last 2 years, and it's been so incredibly helpful, but I
Mhm.
haven't been nearly as consistent as what you just described. So that's a great tip.
Once it
Um,
becomes a habit, right, then it just becomes
yes,
it's part of my routine, it's part of my morning routine and my evening routine, and now I can't actually imagine a day where I don't do that.
that's great advice to end on. And again, with the theme of raising your hand, thank you for being willing to come on Multifamily Unpacked podcast and share your story, share your wisdom, your advice. It's an honor for me to catch up with you and see you again. But if people want to know more about you, or what's the best way they can follow you and keep track of what you're doing, what you're up to?
Absolutely. I think LinkedIn's probably the best avenue to see what I'm up to and what my company is up to. I certainly try and be an ambassador and an evangelist for all the great that we're doing in this industry. And I'm super proud of the team that we've built and the work that they do. And we love to showcase that.
Awesome. Everyone follow Jennifer on LinkedIn. She's amazing.
Thanks. It was so great to reconnect.
Good to see you again.
You too. Bye.